Greetings, I'm Rosalind Parks, and thank you for tuning into this edition of National Network View News. Tonight's show will recap this week's final call cover, 59 Shots and a Cover-Up. Then, our guest, Brother West Muhammad, will come on for an interview to talk about winning the FOI of the Month Award, his journalistic passion, and learning his supreme wisdom lessons. Before we delve into tonight's news, let's do a recap of the Final Call cover report. A U.S. Marshal and a Clayton County police officer turned themselves in this week and were quickly released on bond at the Fulton County Jail in Georgia. U.S. Marshal Eric Hines and Clayton County Police Officer Christopher Hutchins have both been charged in the killing of Jamarion Robinson. Medical examiner reports showed the young man was shot by the officers 59 times. This happened in 2016. Last week, the officers were indicted. The victim's family and others are hoping for justice in the case of another Black person murdered by police.
Hard work and effort that I put in, I finally got the resolution that I wanted. So now it's on to the next phase of this. They took my son's life, so they need to feel what it feels like to be taken away from their family.
The front page of the Final Call newspaper points out the possibility of a cover-up. Here is a clip of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's message entitled Justifiable Homicide, Black Youth in Peril.
Anything that white folk did to set the black man at naught was excusable, because anything that was done to us to maintain white supremacy was in fact an unwritten law. We must keep the black man in subjection to a power that was ruthless in its administration and stewardship over our lives. And therefore, every black human being that was killed during the 300 years of chattel slavery, and even now 150 years up from slavery, that is killed by white people generally is considered excusable.
The minister speaks more on this and how our life has no value to white society in this clip from the same lecture.
One white historian wrote, quote, that it was almost impossible to convict a white man of a crime against a black person. In one Louisiana town, 2 white men were convicted of murdering a black man. After they were convicted, they rose and walked out of court after the verdict was announced, and no effort was made to stop them. Now just think about that. In 1890, a white man was convicted for the murder of a black man and was fined $5 for the crime. And the judge let it be known that he would not press for collection. That's how little our lives have meant in this society. White folks will pick a dog up on the highway and have the dog sit down at the dinner table, but a black human being will be sent to prison for mistreating dogs. And white folks mistreat blacks every day, and there is no penalty.
Read this incredible story and the message by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan at finalcall.com or get the print edition of our nation's paper. We'll be right back after these announcements.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Your support helps us to highlight solutions for a brighter tomorrow. Go to nnvnews.com/donate.
Now you can get the same uncompromising truth you've come to expect from the Final Call newspaper on all your connected devices. Subscribe to the Final Call Digital Edition today. Go to subscribe.finalcalldigital.com.
The hashtag #BankBlack social media campaign made strides not only in revolutionizing how we bank, but also how we think. The movement inspired thousands of African Americans across the country to transfer or deposit millions of dollars into Black-owned banks. These are banks that will invest in urban communities, employ African Americans, support Black businesses, and inspire Black home ownership. This is a very proud moment for our culture as we are taking small, but significant, steps towards building Black power through Black wealth.
Please share your thoughts with us in the comment section below. Follow us on social media at NNV News, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel at National Network View. I am Anissa Muhammad with nnvnews.com.
The Nation of Islam FOI of the Month Award recognizes the efforts of young inspirational leaders in the FOI who excel in their education and Islamic studies. Joining us is West Muhammad, a recent FOI of the Month Award recipient, top student, and aspiring journalist. Greetings, sir.
Greetings. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. Brother West, congratulations on your recent award, FOI of the Month. What has inspired you and motivated you to immerse yourself in your Islamic studies and excel as an FOI?
Yes, ma'am. All praises due to Allah. If I may, I would like to open up in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and that Muhammad is his messenger, and that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is our divine reminder and messenger in our midst. And thank you. I am truly humble and forever grateful. I'm a third generational Muslim, and my mother, Sister Tia, says Islam chose her so that she could be the vessel for me. Growing up in Baltimore, we see a lot of poverty and street pharmacies and crime, but she didn't want that for me. And she always says that he who controls the imagery controls the psyche. So instead of seeing the guys on the corner, she wanted me to see the brothers that are selling bean pies and wearing bow ties.
Oh, yes, sir. Now, I understand that you've memorized the Supreme Wisdom lessons and actual facts. Could you give us a bit of your Supreme Wisdom?
Yes, ma'am. Which part would you like to hear?
I'll let that choice be up to you.
Yes, ma'am. I'll recite number 4 of the Lost from Muslim, lesson number 1.
Yes, sir.
Why do we run Yaqub and his maid devil from the root of civilization over the hot Arabian desert into the caves of West Asia, as they now call it Europe? What is the meaning of U and rope? How long ago? What kind of life did he live? What did the devil bring with him? And how long before Musa came to teach the devil the forgotten trick knowledge? Answer.
Thank you. All right. Now, you have also appeared on social media platforms and hosted your own show. Are you an inspiring journalist, or is this just a hobby for you?
Yes, ma'am. I have a few articles that I'm writing and would like to see them appear in the final call. My aspirations are to be an actor in the Nation of Islam, of course, and I would love to be on our very own show, NFA Studios, but I'm not sure how to go about that just yet. As far as social media, I recently created an Instagram page, so feel free to follow me at bro.west_m.
Yes, sir. Now, how has the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan inspired you? Can you speak a little bit to that?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for that question.
You're welcome.
The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is the example. He is the standard. And I watch old lectures of him all of the time, and especially from the final call building. While I have not met him face to face, but I was fortunate to greet him during the Zoom meeting, and that was sufficient. And honestly, it has always been a strong desire of mine to meet him face to face, to give him a hug, or to even just touch the hem of his garment. And I pray to Allah that one day that time and privilege will come.
I have no doubt that it's on its way to you. I know that you have something special, very special, that you're engaged in this weekend. Will you come back again and share it with us?
Yes, ma'am, I will.
And Brother West, can you give us that Instagram page one more time?
Yes, ma'am. You can go to Instagram and type in bro.west_m.
Thank you very much. And thank you for joining us today. I know we'll be seeing you again soon.
Yes, ma'am. Inshallah. Thank you for having me.
You are welcome. And I want to make sure that I let everyone know, our viewers know, to stay tuned for the I have a testimony show that is airing immediately after this one. We will have a wonderful guest for you to see and listen to today. So please stay tuned for that. Thank you for joining us today and tuning in to National Network View News. Please share your thoughts with us in the comment section below. Follow us on social media at NNV News, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel, NNV News. This is Rosalind Parks with National Network View News. Good afternoon.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Your support helps us to highlight solutions for a brighter tomorrow. Go to nnvnews.com/donate.
Individually, we are poor when you compare us with white society in America. We are poor. Collectively, we are richer than all the nations in the world, with the exception of 9. That's power right there, if we know how to prove it. We begin the process of building a greater economic base, and at the same time, we are putting pressure where it really hurts. We don't have to argue with anybody. We just need to go around to these stores and to these massive industries in our country. Say, God sent us by here to say to you that you're not treating His children right. We come by here to ask you to make the first item on your agenda fair treatment where God's children are concerned. Now, if you're not prepared to do that, we do have an agenda that we must follow. And our agenda calls for withdrawing economic support from you. We mean business now, and we are determined
to gain our rightful place in God's world.
AsiaticMinds.com. Online education, helping our children to discover their God-given skills, gifts, talents, and passion that will allow them to see their greatness, as well as the greatness of our people. And upon discovering that greatness, infusing them with the desire to use it for the betterment of themselves, their families, our people, and the world. 2022 through 23 enrollment waiting list open now. Visit AsiaticMinds.com.
Please share your thoughts with us in the comment section below. Follow us on social media at NNV News, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel at National Network View. I am Anissa Muhammad with NNVnews.com.
To seek and to save that which was lost. He raised a man from among us.
He, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, laid the foundation. What I'm doing is something that comes from him through me, and the thing that he uses in me to do the work is my faith in him and the word that he taught. To produce men and women who wanted to clean up their life and build an independent nation for the glory of God.
Today we have with us a special guest, brothers and sisters. His name is Brother James Muhammad. He is a student minister in the city of Tampa, Florida. He's assisting the student minister of Muhammad Mosque number 47. Also, Brother James is one of the co-hosts of the show Closing the Gap podcast.
Real preachers. You have a global audience. And people may say that they don't like necessarily the words that you might be using because they're not clean enough. And we say to them that the water ain't as clean as it should be, but you ain't stopped drinking it. Our brothers and sisters of the rap community are the greatest messengers of God that God has ever produced. So my prayer is that the world recognize you, but even more important, that you recognize who you are. Recognize your power, because the scripture says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. But the Word was not only with God, it was God. And then it became flesh and dwelt among men. You are the manifestation of that scripture.
Assalamu alaikum, dear brother, and thank you for accepting our invitation to be a guest on our show.
Wa alaikum salam, dear brother minister, and it is my great honor and privilege to be a guest on this show or broadcast, what in my humble opinion is the preeminent broadcast that we all in this genre should try to model. I know
praises due to Allah.
I want to do that myself, but to all of you in the studio and of course in your viewing and listening audience, we're very happy to greet all of you with the greeting words of peace. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam, and all praises due to Allah. I'd like to get right into the interview, my brother. So we start off, I talked about how you are one of the co-hosts of the dynamic show that everybody should watch, Closing the Gap podcast, right?
Yes,
Can you tell the audience how the show began and what is the overall objective of the show?
Absolutely. Obviously, at least obvious to those who are followers of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, as I and we are. That program or broadcast was inspired by the book, Closing the Gap broadcast, or Closing the Gap, the inner views of the heart, mind, and spirit of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And so, to the point, one day, my brother, student minister Demetric Muhammad, a student in the ministry of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and of course, a member of the research team, we got together and we thought about how we could stem the tide, or at least contribute to stemming that tide of those, what we refer to as nation babies, who were born in the nation, grow up, and for one reason or another, they depart from the principles of the nation, from being active and practicing members of the nation. So we wanted to try to solve that problem, or at least get to the root of why that was occurring. So Closing the Gap initially was purposed for that, and we would bring in children of Muslims, those who were born in the nation, and talk quite frankly to them as to those obstacles that they met and could not surmount that would allow them to remain in the nation. And that's how it started. My wife and I were talking about the show, doing something, and she gave me the name, or the idea anyway. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan gave us the name, but she said, why don't you call it Closing the Gap?
Wow.
And so for a short time, our dear brother, student minister Demetric, and I, we worked together, and then he was inundated with his own work as far as publishing articles, authoring books. As you well know, he is a prolific writer and author. And I had to go it alone. So we paused for a while and then started up again. And I can remember the early days, dear brother, when I was sitting in the studio by myself, reading from the Final Call newspaper. That was the format.
Wow. Well, today it is definitely evolved. And can you share with the audience what day and time does the show air so that they can tune in as well?
Absolutely. Well, we have two aspects. The first of which is our main broadcast, Closing the Gap broadcast, that airs every Saturday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and 6 p.m., of course, Central Time, and 4 p.m. Mountain Time every Saturday. And then on Tuesday, we have Closing the Gap broadcast, The Farrakhan Generation. And that airs every Tuesday at 7 p.m., the same times, 7 p.m., 6 p.m., 4 p.m., respective to the time zones.
Praise be to Allah. Now, I've noticed that you've had our brother, student national assistant, brother Ishmael Muhammad, on the show on a regular basis. Can you share with the audience, what you and the other hosts hope to achieve by doing so?
Well, where he is specifically concerned, what he recognized, and of course we all recognize, was he needed, and we needed someone who would be able to field the many questions that Muslims have, as well as our lost, found, unregistered members of the Nation of Islam who have questions about the Nation of Islam, who have questions about some of what they perceive the direction is of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, any perceived changes in our direction. And so Student Minister Ishmael blessed us by coming on regularly. He expressed a desire to come on regularly just to answer questions, to field questions, to have these question and answer periods, because it's necessary. And it's rooted in the scriptures when it says to know Jesus Christ and his Father, the eternal God, is life. And so the converse of that is, if you don't know him, then it's death, not necessarily physical death, although it can mean that, but it means also spiritual death. So our purpose, and especially his purpose in coming on with such regularity, and it is a divine blessing. Let me say that. It's a great blessing for him to have committed to do that. That purpose is to give life from the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad as they are given by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, to bring about understanding.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yes,
beautiful.
sir.
And we definitely enjoy that. I know that the guests and the believers also enjoy it as well. This show, one of the objectives of this show is to present people the opportunity to share their personal journey to Islam, as well as to testify about the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So if you can share with the audience, how did you journey to Islam? How did you come to become aware and then accept the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad?
Yes, sir, dear brother. Well, my initial introduction to Islam was through what is referred to and is well known, I'm sure, as the 5% nation. That was also called the nation of the gods and the earths. That was my introduction when I was a youngster, But again, that form, that expression, as attractive as it was and continues to be to our young brothers and sisters, it was missing the components of discipline. And I think that was prophetic, because that component of discipline that we now observe in the Nation of Islam, it may have turned young people off I'm talking about in the 60s. And of course, so you saw our 5% brothers and sisters, they could really, really recite the lessons. But our behavior was a bit immoral and undisciplined, let me say. So that, I believe, was all in the plan of Allah in our growth and development. And then growing up in the projects, the PJs as they are referred to, in the hood, I came under the influence of all of what that implies, which led ultimately to my incarceration. And when I was incarcerated, this is when I was introduced to the Nation of Islam by my dear brother. I will never forget Brother Warren. He used to come to my cell and give me copies of the final call, not the final call at that time, it was Muhammad Speaks. And we would go back and forth because he would try to teach me of a God other than myself, and the credo, of course, of the 5% nation is that I am God. You see? So for him to convince me that, yes, I am a God, but there's a supreme being that I need to look to worship other than myself. And we would go back and forth, and ultimately it was prayer. It was prayer, the beauty of prayer that convinced me. He would teach me how to pray, which I never did as a 5%. I never prayed, but he taught me. And it was an overwhelming spiritual experience. And so I became a member of the Nation of Islam.
And that was in what city?
That was in upstate New York. I was in New York at the times where I grew up, but in Brooklyn. But when I was incarcerated, I went to first Elmira Reformatory because I wasn't yet 21. So I went to Elmira Reformatory, and then from Elmira, we were boated to penitentiaries when we got older. And the penitentiary I was blessed to go to, and I do say blessed because that experience arrested me and really saved me. So I went to Walk Hill Penitentiary, and there is where I accepted Islam under Brother Richard. Now, I don't know if your listening audience or perhaps yourself are familiar with the Attica uprising.
Yeah, we are.
Okay, praise be to Allah. Brother Richard was our minister in Walk Hill Penitentiary, and he had organized a meeting with the Muslims. And I mean, it literally struck so much fear in the heart of the officials, you see, the COs and everybody.
Wow.
So they immediately separated us. They started voting us, which was the language, out to different institutions. And he went to Attica.
Wow.
And he became, in that uprising, the negotiating factor between the guards and the prison and the inmates.
Wow, that's when you have a very interesting journey to Islam, but it's a beautiful one, man. And we thank you for sharing, because I think they're going to release soon another documentary on the Attica uprising. So time is moving so fast. So we're coming up to our first break, and we'll be right back after these brief messages by our sponsors.
Thank you, brother.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Your support helps us to highlight solutions for a brighter tomorrow. Go to nnvnews.com/donate.
Now you can get the same uncompromising truth you've come to expect from the Final Call newspaper on all your connected devices. Subscribe to the Final Call Digital Edition today. Go to subscribe.finalcalldigital.com.
The hashtag Bank Black social media campaign made strides not only in revolutionizing how we bank, but also how we think. The movement inspired thousands of African Americans across the country to transfer or deposit millions of dollars into Black-owned banks. These are banks that will invest in urban communities, employ African Americans, support Black businesses, and inspire Black home ownership. This is a very proud moment for our culture as we are taking small but significant steps towards building Black power through Black wealth.
Please share your thoughts with us in the comment section below. Follow us on social media at NNV News, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel at National Network View. I am Anissa Muhammad with nnvnews.com.
Welcome back to I Have a Testimony. And with us today is our brother James Muhammad, who just gave us a very beautiful bearing of witness of his testimony and journey to Islam as taught by the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. Brother James, you mentioned how upstate New York, and in preparation for this interview, I came across a beautiful picture of you with our brother, who the Honorable Mr. Louis Farrakhan described as a martyr, Brother Abdul Hafiz Muhammad. And at that time, he was Kevin Muhammad. So can you share with us any of your memories or lessons that you learned from our brother?
Absolutely, brother. And there were many. I was blessed when the nation fell. I'll be very brief with that. When the nation fell, of course, many of us went back to the world. And so my return, by Allah's grace and permission, to the Nation of Islam led me to Mosque number 7 and brother, at that time, Brother Kevin. And of course, at that time also, the Assistant Supreme Captain, Brother Aziz Muhammad, who was then Brother Anthony, was the captain in Mosque number 7. And so we were blessed to re-accept under Brother Hafiz, and eventually we moved through the ranks by the grace of Allah. I became the FOI secretary to our dear brother Aziz at the time, but my heart was always with the ministry. And so Brother Aziz at that time, reluctantly, I would say, allowed me to go and pursue my ministerial aspirations. And Brother Hafiz was a mentor, was one under whose wings I was allowed to develop and to grow. He guided me, and he generously opened up the way for me that I might express what was in my heart, and I became his assistant student minister at Mosque number 7.
Wow, praise be to Allah. And in addition to you having that relationship and working relationship with our brother Abdul Hafiz Muhammad, you were also there in New York under the leadership of Brother Conrad Muhammad, right?
Yes, sir, I absolutely was. And Brother Conrad and I, before he became the student minister, he was the national youth minister, if you remember. And when he became was appointed to the ministry of Mosque number 7, we had already had a very beautiful relationship. I had a business, if you can remember those oil paintings on velvet of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and other Black historians and figures of leadership in our community. Well, that was my business, and I was blessed to spread those paintings all over the nation. And I was, we had struck up a very loving relationship, Brother Conrad and I. So we were like partners, and we would roll, according to the language, of course, together every day. We had a ritual. I would come and pick him up. He used to live in Roosevelt Island, and I was living in Long Island at the time. I would come pick him up. Then we would go to Harlem. I had 2 galleries, one of which was at the 125th Street Mart on 125th Street, and the other was right up against a storefront that was closed, of course. And we put up a structure so we could hang our paintings. So every morning I would go and open up the gallery, put the paintings in the mart, and put the paintings on the storefront, and then he and I would go politicking, if you will, hanging out, talking to the people. You know, he was very popular and very loved by the brothers and sisters in New York, and he was teaching me a lot. Now I'm many years his senior, as I was Brother Hafiz's senior, but they taught me so much. And one of the things that Brother Conrad really taught me was how to dress. He did. Him and Brother Jamil. Jamil really taught him, and he taught me, and then Jamil taught us both the fine tuning of how to dress. You know, not just having on a nice suit and shirt and tie, but it's really fine tuning it, you know. And so we were very, very close. And then Brother Conrad one day called me while I was, ironically enough, watching the Buccaneers of Tampa, Florida, losing in a football game. And he called me and said, Brother James, what do you think about being the minister in Tampa, Florida? I thought he was joking because the game was on and they were losing. And I said, yeah, right, brother. You know, he was just trying to get on me about losing, about the Bucks losing. That's what I thought. But he was serious. And so he said, well, brother, just check it out. Minister Van, who was the former regional minister, regional Southern minister, he had called Brother Conrad and asked Brother Conrad, did he know of any of ministerial aspirants who were willing to relocate them and their families. Preferably, I think he wanted someone single so they wouldn't have the burden of relocating their family. But I was assisting Brother Conrad when he was the minister there in Muhammad Mosque number 7. And so he said, knowing, you know, my aspirations, knowing what I wanted to do in life, he said, why don't you go check it out, brother? You know, so I took a flight down to Tampa, Florida, and I remember our first lecture, The Bloodsuckers of the Poor, and we got a wonderful response. And I said, okay, yeah. I talked to my wife about it, and she, of course, has been my main support through this whole journey. Could not have done or could not do what I am doing, what I've done and what I'm doing without her support over the 41 years that we have been together. So she said, well, if that's what you want to do, go ahead, you know. I left them in New York, and I went on my own to establish something that I could receive my wife and children.
Wow, beautiful, man. And beautiful. And we have a few more minutes before we come up to our next break, but I want to get this in because in talking to you, you shared this, that you also had interactions in working with our late brother Dr. Khalid Muhammad. How was that?
Absolutely. But that was really quite a journey. A very dynamic, very stern, very strong, committed brother at the time. I'll just relate this to you of an incident that we had. We used to have an imbroglio, if you will, an argument with the Hebrew Israelites, and you know, on 125th Street, you know, every expression of Black culture was on 125th Street in Harlem. And, you know, sometimes we would be walking by with the final call and they'll start saying something negative about the minister, something negative about the Nation of Islam. And one day they said, they disrespected a sister. I won't go into what occurred after. But when Brother Khalid became the student minister in New York, we, of course, were bringing him up to speed on some of the things that we were experiencing. So he said, well, when do they meet? Their meeting place was right across the street from the mosque on 125th Street and 5th Avenue, right across the street. And he said, when do they meet? We said, well, Tuesday night. And so he decided he would go, and we were all mounting up. You know how the FOI is. Yeah. You know, we were all mounting up, ready to roll. And Brother Khalid said, no, I'm going by myself. I don't want anyone with me.
Wow.
Well, suffice to say that after that meeting, We never had a problem with them anymore. I don't know what occurred at that meeting. I do know of Brother Khaled that he's the kind of person that will warn you. And he will, his warning will be, don't do it. Don't do it again. Simple as that. And his posture was such that, you know, you kind of knew you were in some trouble if you would violate again. You know, so he was very strong, a military strategist, you know. Our brother, he was larger than life in New York at that time.
Wow.
And he allowed me to assist him.
Beautiful.
So I was like, in some regard, I forget the name of that prince. Certainly I'm not trying to say that I was a prince or anything like that, but I was that kind of person in history that no matter what leadership came, I was able to survive through the transition and become a part of that leadership, to assist that leadership. And I believe because as long as they represented the man that saved my life, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, it didn't matter how you looked, it didn't matter how you sounded, it didn't matter anything about, all I needed to see in you was a commitment to help him. And I was with you.
Praise be to Allah. Beautiful, man. And you know, Dr. Khaled, we did a documentary about the history of the Nation of Islam here in New Orleans, and he's a part of the documentary because he accepted Islam on the campus of Dillard University. And we were able to find a picture of him with two other brothers on the campus of Dillard University with the Muhammad Speaks. So we're coming up on our next break, brother. Thank you for the jewels you shared about Brother Abdul Hafiz, Brother Conrad, and even Dr. Khaled. And we can't wait to hear more of your testimony after we return after these brief messages.
Yes, sir.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Your support helps to combat false media. Cash App NNV News.
AsiaticMinds.com. Online education, helping our children to discover their God-given skills, gifts, talents, and passion that will allow them to see their greatness, as well as the greatness of our people. And upon discovering that greatness, infusing them with the desire to use it for the betterment of themselves, their families, our people, and the world. 2022 through 23 enrollment waiting list open now. Visit AsiaticMinds.com.
Worldwide, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Download the Final Call radio app and take us everywhere. On your phone, on your computer, on your tablet, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also log on to finalcall.com and click the Listen Live button, or finalcallradio.com. Final Call Radio, the official voice of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam.
Thank you for tuning in to NNV News. Please share your thoughts with us in the comments section below. Follow us on social media at NNV News, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel, National Network View. This is Clifton Muhammad with NNVnews.com.
And we're back, dear brothers and sisters, with our guest, Brother James Muhammad. And if you're like me, you're definitely enjoying this testimony. So we're back, and Brother James, you talked about the impact of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan on your life and saving your life. You know, the show is titled, I Have a Testimony. If you were given the opportunity to stand before the world and testify of 3 qualities of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, what would those 3 qualities be?
The first of which would be sincerity, truthfulness, uncompromising, bold, unapologetic truthfulness and sincerity and commitment to what he says, what he means, and what he does. Integrity, a man whose word is absolutely bond. And of course, you know, we are trained as FOI. Our word is bond, and bond is life, and we shall give our life before our word shall fail. He is the embodiment of that level of integrity. But over all of these wonderful characteristics is his abundant love. Abundant love. Love that is reflective, I believe, of the attribute Ar-Rahman, the beneficent, one who is the giver of graces and the giver of benefits without the recipient ever having to have earned those benefits, that grace, that mercy. Love over all of the others that I mentioned. Love, indescribable, some would say inhuman love of his people, of humanity. And I want to make that plain. It's not just his people, Black people, and of course, he's justified in focusing on our people. But his love spans and transcends ethnic lines, racial lines, lines of biology, sex, or women, or what they call gender. It's his love that you can, it's palpable. You can feel it when you're in his presence. It's such a power, such a powerful love, that if there's something troubling you, and I say this with no equivocation or exaggeration, if something is troubling you and you are blessed to get into his presence, the love emanating from this man's spirit, embodied in his presence, all you can say when he asks you, how are you doing, brother? You can respond any way except that, fine, all praises due to Allah. And you mean it. And you mean it. Because whatever was troubling you, that spirit of his presence, this has to be the Messiah. This has to be the Jesus of the Bible and the Isa of the Quran. This has to be. Not because we can prove it, of course, scripturally. When we compare or juxtapose his work alongside of the scriptures definition of and description of the Messiah, but from the reality of him, from being around him. And so that's in the short time that I have. I mean,
yes, sir.
I could talk about him the whole show.
Oh, definitely.
And
I know
2
you
and
can.
3 shows and 4 and 5.
Yes, sir.
But
I appreciate that.
I would say.
We appreciate you, what you shared. And earlier you gave some history about how you actually ended up coming to Tampa, Florida with the ministry. But prior to us going on air, you talked about some of the other work that you have been blessed to do to help the Nation of Islam in that region as it relates to Jacksonville. So if you can share with the audience what are some of the other mosques and study groups that you've been blessed to labor on the behalf of?
Yes, sir. I was blessed under the leadership and guidance of our dear brother, the student minister Rasul Muhammad, to work with him and to assist him for 20 plus years here in this region. And as such, I was blessed to, of course, be a student minister in Tampa, Florida, but also as, I'll say more accurately, a study group coordinator in Jacksonville, in Orlando, Florida, and a student regional assistant to our dear brother Rasul Muhammad. And in that capacity, we went all over Florida trying to touch every nook and cranny, or cranny rather, on his behalf. And so I was blessed that he appointed me as the director, the regional director of the Millions More movement. He appointed me as the student regional auditors coordinator. So much opportunity to grow he extended to me. So that's some. And of course, most recent, I was the study group coordinator of Orlando, Florida. And now, currently, I am a student of the ministry, in the ministry of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and the founder and CEO of Closing the Gap Broadcast Network, by Allah, God, and His servants' permission.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Your support helps us to highlight solutions for a brighter tomorrow. Go to nnvnews.com/donate.
Individually, we are poor when you compare us with white society in America. We are poor. Collectively, we are richer than all the nations in the world, with the exception of 9. That's power right there, if we know how to prove it. We began the process of building a greater economic base, and at the same time, we are putting pressure where it really hurts. We don't have to argue with anybody. We just need to go around to these stores and to these massive industries in our country. Say, God sent us by here to say to you that you're not treating His children right. We come by here to ask you to make the first item on your agenda fair treatment where God's children are concerned. Now, if you're not prepared to do that, we do have an agenda that we must follow. And our agenda calls for withdrawing economic support from you. We mean business now, and we are determined to gain our rightful place in God's world.
AsiaticMinds.com. Online education, helping our children to discover their God-given skills, gifts, talents, and passion that will allow them to see their greatness, as well as the greatness of our people. And upon discovering that greatness, infusing them with the desire to use it for the betterment of themselves, their families, our people, and the world. 2022 through 23 enrollment waiting list open now. Visit AsiaticMinds.com.
Please share your thoughts with us in the comment section below. Follow us on social media at NNV News, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel at National Network View. I am Anissa Muhammad with nnvnews.com.
So what are your thoughts about the reopening of the mosques and the study groups on November the 14th? during this COVID pandemic?
Well, my thoughts again, and I'll focus on my thoughts because there's a lot of emotion tied into that as well. You know, elation, joyful anticipation, excitement, all of that. But my thoughts are, of course, that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, the Messiah, makes decisions inspired from on high, you know, from the Christ and of course from Allah, Master Father Muhammad. And this decision now to open, I think, attests to his messianic position and connection with God and his Christ. For in the midst of what the world is calling a pandemic, which is actually a pestilence from heaven, so teaches the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, in the midst of this, we are reopening. And the beauty of it, Brother Minister, is those of us who believe that he is who he is, those of us, and maybe there's some who know from scripture and prophetic references that he is who he is. We enter into this stage of reopening with great confidence, fearlessness. We're not afraid of contracting this disease as long as we are obedient to him. We feel, I'm speaking for myself now, we feel protected, like being in the midst, being in the world, but not of the world. You see, so we can practice our faith. We can pursue the mission of the resurrection of the dead, spiritually, mentally, and spiritually and morally dead, with the assurance that as long as we are obedient to God's servant, we are under his loving protection. God is watching over us. And so we will boldly reopen, unhesitatingly reopen, according to his instruction.
Praise be to Allah. Thank you for that. Thank you for that answer, and even that the reasoning that you provided as well. And I know when we show this rebroadcast and people see these clips from it, those words will be reassuring and understanding to remind us who we are actually following. Now you mentioned our dear brother Rasul Muhammad, and when we talked on the phone yesterday, you talked about how there were many great lessons that you learned from our brother. Can you talk about your relationship with our brother and the lessons that you learned and anything that he may have shared from his father and his mother to you?
Absolutely. You know, it was definitely it was multifaceted. He is my brother, was my brother, my teacher. He was in some cases a father figure. And I want to highlight that because the importance of it, I think I was 17 years, I am 17 or 18 years his senior. But he, reflective of the love that I referred to as with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, he had that same love, that same heart, that same largeness of life, I would say. And of course, his guidance and his generosity in allowing me to serve him all over Florida and in many, many capacities. I learned so much from him. But I would like to share with you a profound statement, a principle of truth that he shared with me, which to this day shapes much of what I do and provides for me the strength, the patience that I need to get to the other side of this journey, if it pleases Allah. This is what he said. He said, Brother James, the man that you are desirous of being is on the other side of the trial you are attempting to avoid. And I'm telling you, that was so profound. It stays with me. We have had, and hopefully continue to have, even though I don't speak to him often as I used to, a loving relationship. Loving relationship. Not that we didn't get into arguments. We did. But it was a very, to me, very special, loving, beneficent relationship. I received so much from my brother. And oftentimes when, you're being tested or being tried, you don't know what people are doing for you because of the attendant pain of the lesson that you feel. And you think they're doing to you. But upon retrospect and reflection, I owe that man a great deal, a great debt of gratitude. And I thank Allah for him.
Beautiful. Man, and what a way to end this magnificent interview, and what you shared just with the words with about Brother Rasul, man. Well, just beautiful, something that we all can take. So thank you, Brother James, for your time here. Thank you for sticking with us even through these technical difficulties we experienced. And thank you for your testimony, my brother. And we can't wait I know other people are going to enjoy this. May Allah continue to bless you all there in Tampa. And for those who are watching, thank you all for tuning in to I Have a Testimony with your brother, Brother Willie Muhammad.
Thank you, brother. It has been my great honor and pleasure. May Allah continue to bless you with success. And if I may, I would ask those of you who are viewing and listening, go visit the website of Closing the Gap Broadcast Network, ctgbnetwork.com. Thank you. May Allah bless you.
Yes, sir. You too. Walaikum salam. And thank you, brothers and sisters. Continue to support NNV News Network, and make sure you go and visit the website of our brother of the Closing the Gap podcast. This is your host, Brother Willie Muhammad. Once again, peace.
God came to us to seek and to save that which was lost. He raised a man from among us.
He, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, laid the foundation. What I'm doing is something that comes from him through me, and the thing that he uses in me to do the work is my faith in him and the word that he taught. To produce men and women who wanted to clean up their life and build an independent nation for the glory of God.